Hey everyone, welcome to a new video. I hope you had a great day. Let's take a look at some new malicious compliance stories, shall we?
The first story is called Told Not to Do My Job. I work for a company with a great boss and sole shareholder who put me through university. He sold the company equally to 3 new shareholders upon retirement. 2, let's call them Ken and Rob, had been with the company for years. But they were the absolute worst when it comes to ownership and decision-making roles, both in business matters and in dealing with staff. They generally behaved like entitled children. They believed and acted as if they knew more about everything than even key staff members who had been there for many years longer. The third, let's call him Bill, was brilliant, great to work for, very generous to staff, and had a vision for the future of the company. Ken and Rob were constantly in fights with each other. And generally, they were contributing nothing to the business, all while benefiting from the collection of fairly significant receivables generously left behind by the founding owner. Bill, on the other hand, was working hard on new business for the future and refusing to get dragged into any of Ken and Rob's nonsense. I was in a unique administrative and managerial role, which had me plugged in at every level except ownership, and I reported to all 3 owners. One of my primary responsibilities was to keep the shareholders informed on remaining receivables and estimated collections therefrom when we approached year-end. Over time, owner relationships became more strained as Ken and Rob did less and wanted more, increasing their disputes with one another. Tension built to a boiling point over 5 years and then boiled over. Rob was regularly belittling staff and trying to take out his frustrations on them. He erred when trying to take out his frustrations on me for being left out of a business trip with Bill and key staff, including me. Rob accused me of incompetence in front of staff by losing info on his pet project. But I was still competent enough to have completed his useless pet project prior to the business trip and putting results in his folder on the server. Upon reminding Rob of this, he was very clear that if he wanted any information from me, then he would ask me, otherwise, I should not volunteer it. I was basically being told not to do my job. I refused to work with or for him again. I was transparent with Bill about what went down. He couldn't care less and valued my work on productive projects. Ken was just thrilled that Rob had burnt his last bridge to a competent staff member, which he felt further consolidated his power. Well, Ken was just as bad as Rob. From the day he became a shareholder, he was arrogant and haughty, generally treating anyone not in his staff clique like invisible people, refusing to even speak with them. In those same years, he had some small and barely profitable projects that I thought needed my input to be successful. But he was clear in telling me that he did not need my input on the business of the company. Again, I was basically being told not to do my job. After other events, Rob ultimately decided he wanted to be bought out of the company. Ken was elated, having felt like he had just beaten the devil. Bill was smart enough to not look a gift horse in the mouth and readily agreed that Rob might be happier retired and the company would purchase his shares for a value agreed upon by the 3 of them. I intentionally withheld the year-end receivables report from the shareholders, and only Bill asked for it. He then determined what would not break the bank, and Ken quickly agreed, again believing he had both won some great war and was further cementing his power as now half-owner of the company. Rob was now bought out and gone forever. A year later, Ken also decided that he wanted to be bought out of his shares. Again, I withheld the yearly receivables report and only Bill asked for it. Ken believed he was a hotshot businessman and was eager to leave with a small pile of money so he could go start his own company and magically become rich. One of my primary responsibilities was to track and report on the remaining receivables to the shareholders. However, since 2 of them instructed me not to volunteer information or provide input on company business, I did as I was told. Remember Ken and Rob each saying they didn't need me to volunteer information or for me to provide any input on company business? Each had been bought out in December and I intentionally delayed my yearly receivables report, hoping they wouldn't ask me for it, as it would affect their valuation. And they never did. Company ownership was split evenly 3 ways. Remember Rob's buyout? It was $1.4 million. Remember Ken's buyout? It was $1.5 million. And that was only because he demanded to get more than Rob. The total remaining receivables were $24.2 million. So Ken and Rob left about $6.5 million each on the table. The last story is called Boss Told Me to Find a New Job. Back when I was still working in human resources, I got a great job offer. This was a publicly funded company with huge cultural impact, really the definition of an institution. Everyone who learned I worked there couldn't help but to feel slightly amazed at the discovery. Some people were even rudely implying that I had friends in the right places. Never mind that I was a recently graduate clueless young man with nothing to my name. This was my first real job too, not counting internships or smaller summer jobs. As such, I really tried my best to be helpful and kind to everyone on my first year there, and maybe that's why I became a target. After I secured a permanent contract with them, with incredibly bad pay and no benefits at all, one particular co-worker got pretty salty about my position in the office. Although, for all intents and purposes, I was still beneath pretty much everyone there. This culminated in getting a call from this person, 30 minutes after I had left work, asking about a pile of papers she couldn't find. I remembered I had actually kept those papers on my desk and tell her to look there. I apologize profusely and ask her if she wants me to go back to help her deal with it. She simply says no and that everything is all right. Now, this was the type of co-worker that always did the bare minimum and still would whine about it at every chance she had. I never thought much of it. After all, she was a mum and as such, she probably was pretty tired all the time. But I never thought she would turn on me because she had to stay at work for 30 more minutes looking for a pile of papers. Half the time, I would have to stay 1 or 2 hours after work to deal with my workload, so I thought it was no big deal. The next day, I again apologized to my co-worker but immediately noticed something wasn't quite right about the way she was acting with me. Throughout the day, I noticed her going out of the office with co-workers, sending them messages and letting out these poisonous little laughs to herself every time I opened my mouth to say anything. From that day on, this was one of the people that decided to make my life a living hell. I made some friends in this place too. Some of them became really great friends that I still hang out and treasure to this day. But for the most part, it was just the worst. Here are some of the things that I experienced over my 3-year stay. I got one of the most important people in the company publicly shaming me for participating in an interview wearing sneakers. Keep in mind that no dress code was defined for interview or any other corporate event and I had always worn sneakers. There was a bad manager who, on good days, would talk bad about everyone she had to work with and on bad days would downright bully me in front of other co-workers. A co-worker who would often raise rumors about me based on nothing. This was the same who turned on me because of 30 extra minutes on the job. A co-worker who, for no good reason, sprayed me and my friends with a fire extinguisher and human resources who refused to do anything about it. I don't pretend that I was the perfect worker. I mean, it was my first job, I made a ton of mistakes and probably a lot of people angry. But I'd be hard-pressed to find anyone who could deal with this toxic workplace and keep their mental stability. All of this pushed me to a point of near nervous breakdown and one day, I just couldn't take it anymore. It's a day just as any other. At some point after lunch, I come back into the office to find my co-worker sitting at her desk all by herself. Weird, I thought. She usually came back from lunch way after I did. Obviously sulking, she acknowledges my presence by immediately accusing me of hiding papers to prevent her from doing her job. Keep in mind, it's been almost 3 years since she called me after work hours and our relationship soured. This day would be the climax of that seething hatred we had both cultivated for one another. I shrug and tell her I have no idea what she's talking about. Never seen such papers and certainly have nothing to do with the situation. I sit down, also angry now but ready to move on and not waste any more time on this subject. My manager comes in and notices something has happened. The tension is palpable. Before she has the chance to ask what's up, my co-worker pipes up. Well, you see, what's happening is that she is a liar. What? In all of my 3 years there, I never raised my voice, never talked back, never shown a hint of defiance until that very moment. I can't deal with anyone calling me a liar. It's one of the things that makes me go absolutely insane with rage. I immediately cut her off and tell her how much of a toxic person she is. I wasn't nice or even professional about it and I really don't regret it. I didn't use any swear words, but I was definitely very personal about the way I responded. I can see their surprise. They never thought I would fight back. They expected me to take it and shut up forever. Things go downhill from here for me. My co-worker gets transferred somewhere else, but I'm told I have to undergo behavioral training. For the first time in years, I'm not just taking it. I let my manager know I'm not interested. I had been humiliated for 3 years and finally stood up for myself. I wasn't going to be punished for that. My boss calls me to her office and began asking weird questions like, "Are you happy here? And what do you want to do in the future?" I told her about my grievances and how toxic this work culture is. In no uncertain terms, she tells me, "You know, we have to renew your contract soon. But if you're not happy here, I would find a job somewhere else." What? I had given this company some of the best years of my youth. I worked for them day and night, going the extra mile even when they didn't ask me to for what amounted to be a little more than minimum wage. And their payback was punishing me for standing up for myself once. Well, the problem for them is that I had been learning how to program while working. I would get off work late in the evening, go home and drag my exhausted body to my laptop to study up to 4 or 5 hours of coding. I realized I really liked coding, like, a lot. Unbeknownst to them, I had began taking small coding projects for no pay. Having other paid jobs was forbidden in this company. And soon, I was thinking of launching a career as a web developer. My contract ended and I expected to receive a call in 1 or 2 weeks to come by and sign the new contract. This was the usual process for workers like me. Weeks go by and I honestly believe they just decided to not hire me back. But it didn't bother me. After all, I was already looking for a new job before my contract was even over. 3 months later, I get a call from my manager. "Hi, listen, we got your new contract here. Why don't you come by to sign it? If you sign it today, we can have you back by Monday." She goes on to tell me how much work there's been lately and how they really need me back as soon as possible. All the projects I had worked on were halted because no one else wanted to work on them. A quarter of a year after they dropped me with no word of hiring me back. At this point, however, I was getting plenty of interviews for IT companies who were genuinely interested in my skills and portfolio. So I said, "Thank you, I'm not coming back." The silence on the other end of the call was so sweet. My manager asks me to pass by anyway. She would like a word with me and I still had my personal belongings at my desk. I agreed, figuring this was the only chance I'd have to stick it back to them after 3 years of this. She sat me down with a disgustingly saccharine attitude that she would seldom display while I was working for them. The whole meeting was essentially a desperate attempt to bring me back into the company and me refusing it at each turn. "That's okay," she said, "what are you going to do, then?" I told her I'd work as a programmer. My reply is met with laughter. I remained silent. "That's good," she continued, "I'm sure you can do it. But you know, I would seriously consider staying with us." I reiterate that I'm not interested and even let her know I'm moving away in a couple of months. Again, she laughs at me. Apparently, my plans for the future were so extraordinarily out of my reach in her opinion, that she just couldn't help but to laugh. Finally, she asks, "Why would you want to leave us?" I shrugged, unable to contain my smile. "You people told me to get a job if I wasn't happy here. I'm just following your suggestion." Much to my manager's chagrin, I did land a job in web development, and after I left this job because I wanted to immigrate, my employer liked my work so much he asked me to keep working for them remotely until I found another job in my destination. I've been working as a web developer for 3 years now, and every single day, I look back at my previous career and wipe the sweat off my forehead knowing I dodged a lifetime of misery. As for my previous workplace, they're still going strong. After all, it is a huge institution and my part in it wasn't that important. But my team was pretty badly hit. Without me, they couldn't perform interviews and keep some of their projects going. For a couple of months, the whole thing was hot garbage until they unfortunately hired another clueless recent graduate.
Thanks for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please consider subscribing to the channel for more content. I hope you have a great day. Bye bye.